Folks, it's Adriel, the hunting gear guy. I want to show you guys how to clean and disassemble and reassemble the SVT40. This is a really cool rifle from the Soviets. Kind of hard to disassemble, kind of a pain in the butt. A lot more involved than the Mosin Nagant. You can kind of see why some of the Soviet soldiers might not have liked it too much, but from a purely technological standpoint, super cool rifle. Some really cool designs in this thing, and I wanted to show you guys some of them as I kind of go through it. So before we get to cleaning this thing, I want to make sure that it's unloaded, so I can see that the magazine is unloaded, and I can verify, well, the chamber's right there, so yeah, it's not loaded either. So I want to go ahead and disassemble this thing. So the first thing I'm going to do is take off the magazine. Now this actually has a little flip-up magazine release. One of the little design touches they put into the SVT that's kind of interesting. Push that guy and rock and lock it forward. There's a magazine. I'm going to put it to the side. I'm going to disassemble it a little bit further. Now I can let go on the bolt and let it forward. You just want to make sure it's all the way forward. Once I'm done that, here, let me pull this down, pull you guys down a bit. I'm going to need to pull this dust cover off, and it's a little bit tricky. I'm just going to push it forward. There's a recoil spring that's right here. Once I push it all the way forward, I can now get this dust cover out. My thumb is now holding on to the recoil spring. It's not pleasant, but you can make do. Let it go to the rear there, and it's sitting. And you can't actually pull that recoil spring out. That's for a reason. You actually need to get this bolt off its lugs. Oh boy, this is going to be hard to do. There's always a struggle trying to show you guys how to do this versus like not hurting myself trying to do it. So what I'm going to do is pull it all the way to the back. I'm going to tilt it up from the right. You have to let it forward a little bit. I feel it able to tilt there. And then I need to let it forward carefully. Now I'll be able to get this recoil spring off because it's actually out of its track over here. So I should be able to pull it up and over one of the edges. Be careful, it'll be under pressure. It's got this is again a little bit complicated. It's got like 2 springs and a connector and a plug on the end here. It's all one piece. So there's my recoil spring out. With that out, I'm able to pull this guy out. If it's giving you a little bit of trouble, put the gun upside down, and then it'll come right out. What's happening when you've got it right side up is that it really wants the bolts to fall down onto the locking lug there. So if you put it upside down, it'll just keep that bolt in place, and it won't want to fall down. To take the bolt out of the bolt carrier, the bolt goes down until it's unlocked there, and then it actually goes out the front. It's actually a little bit flanged as it goes this way, and that kind of like rides inside that bolt carrier. Pop those guys off to the side. Next, I'm going to want to pull my trigger group out, and it's kind of weird. There's at the back here this little like swinging gate, and when you pull it to the side, do you see that ring in there? That ring is actually something you can press. And like a lot of the Soviet stuff, you could press it with a round of ammo. So you just kind of chuck it in the end there. Now watch this. When I press this trigger group is actually going to come out. I'm going to put the trigger group on safe. And that's so that the trigger doesn't get pressed and I don't accidentally drop the hammer. But I'm going to go ahead and push on that. And did you hear that click there? Now my trigger group is ready to come out. So I can pop that round of ammo to the side. Interesting design, hey? Kind of weird, but it works. All right, let's get to the fore end and the gas system here. I'm going to pull the cleaning rod out, rather. There's a button right here, so I'm going to push that in. That's actually retaining my cleaning rod. Chuck it off to the side. You don't need it for nothing. It's steel. I'm not going to use it on an old gun like this. I would rather use my nice Teflon rod or a brass rod or something like that. Go ahead and push down on this springy deal here, and that should let you pull up on your barrel band. I hate barrel bands, but at least the barrel bands on this one aren't as bad as on the Nagant. And you should be able to go like this and like that. It's kind of like Tetris. There's a barrel band off. Now this upper receiver should come off. Yes, so I need to get that part off first. This part goes up here, this metal part, and then just wiggles out the back. Now I can pull my wood piece forward and off. And I get my gas system exposed. This gas system was really an inspiration for a lot of gas systems later. You see this in the 180s and the AR-18s, and all it is this really long rod here and this gas piston and cup, and they come apart very easily. I'll pull it down here. Again, this thing's so long, it's hard to kind of show you, but you just pull your rod while holding the cup. Now I can pull the cup down and out of the way, and now the rod can come out as well. I'm going to grab from the bottom because it's got this little spring in there. Oh, is the spring coming with me? Yes, it is. There's the spring, and it is on this guy right here. And of course, it comes apart too because I think this gun was mismade for the Russian army. The Russian army does not need a... Geez, how many piece rod is this? 1, 2, 3, plus the spring. This is a 3-piece recoil spring ascent. Oh, too complicated. Now this piston here can come out, or you can leave it in. If you take it out, you will be able to clean the selector as well, so you might want to do it. The tool that you can get for the SVT40 has a perfectly sized wrench to get in on this. Once you've got it loosened, lefty-loosey on this guy, you can pull it right out. I'm doing this in real time and not speeding it up just because if you've got an SVT40 at home, you can just watch along with me. This guy will push out now and onto the floor. There we go. So there's my gas selector. You can see those little like holes on there are varying sizes. I'm pretty sure this was set to 1.5. Pretty sure it was 1.5. 1.7 is the max that you'll max gas that you'll get out of this thing. You don't generally want maximum gas because it's going to batter this whole thing. You don't want to batter like an old gun like this. You want it cycling with just enough gas to effectively run the action. They had an adjustable gas selector on here. Again, a design feature that you don't even see on some guns these days. A lot of guns these days don't have adjustable gas selectors on them. But with this old gun, you could, in the heat of battle, if your gun got too jammed with like crud and mud and that kind of thing, you could crank it up and it would work. It would cycle the rounds. So I'm going to get in here with my pipe cleaner. I wonder if it is too big to get into these holes. Nope, it is not. It can get into that one, and it's going to stop on that one. I'm going to very carefully use a dental pick here. I don't want to score up the insides of these. I just want to get any carbon off that's in there. If you've got something that's brass, that would be ideal for this. You don't want to really be messing up these holes too much. I'm just lightly cleaning around them, lightly cleaning the inside now. And I can get my pipe cleaner to get that inside a little bit more. Now, if you want to pull your action out of the stock, what you're going to need to do is get the tool to get in here, or like a really good set of pliers. You're going to need to like fab something up. I'm not actually going to get in here. There's not really much of a point other than checking for rust and corrosion, that kind of thing. And this rifle was basically covered in Cosmoline when I got it. So I believe that it's going to be well preserved under there. I'm going to grab my pipe cleaner and get right here. I'm going to get down into that recoil rod area there. I would oil that part because that part is going to see some steel on steel action. Specifically at this end here is where I'm going to oil. And I'm going to need a little bit more than that. There we go. Now inside the receiver here, I'm just going to clean where the recesses are, where those little lugs and tracks are. I want those nice and clean and oiled because that's what the bolt's and the bolt carrier are going to ride on. And I'll make sure that they're not like moving crud around in there, scoring up the steel, causing more resistance than they really ought to. This is where I really like an oiled pipe cleaner because I'm very easy to get it into one of those tracks and then move it up and down in the track to oil that track. Now I'm getting it towards the front here. Now, one of the things I'm also going to do is just generally oil the steel inside here. Again, this is an old gun. I don't really want it to rust. They're not making more of them. They're starting to get more expensive here in Canada. My original video was talking about this as a hunting rifle because it was $250. $350? $350. Oh, I just got some hate from some Americans there. They cost more in Canada now. So, you know, we don't have $250 ones. You can just go pick up at Wholesale Sports or one of our wholesale retailers here. So we're taking care of them. We're oiling them properly. At least we should be, right? Now, one thing I will say about the SVT that you may want to do when you're cleaning the barrel is to get in here with something that's going to clean the chamber. The chamber on these things are fluted. Which means that they've got kind of like these scores cut into them, and you'll want to be able to clean those out effectively. So ideally with a chamber brush. The nice thing with an SVT, it's got this hole in the back here. You can put a cleaning rod through the back, so you could clean the chamber with a brush that's purpose made or that's sized correctly for cleaning the chamber instead of pipe cleaner like I'm using. Please use the chamber brush. Please use the brush that's appropriately sized. This gun hasn't been shot a lot, so I'm not too worried about it. So I've got this all nicely oiled. Ooh, a little bit too much on my rear sight there. I'm going to check under my rear sight, just make sure that it's all copacetic. Looks fine. Check under the ladder. A little bit of oil there. And I'm just redistributing that oil. All right, perfect. Taking a look up at the front here. Now up here, I'm going to want to get a pipe cleaner down that gas hole. And this one is a lot harder to hit than the SKS, so I'm going to have to put a little angle. Boop. Let's see if I can get it now. I can feel it. Oh man, it's so rough in there. Oh. There it goes. The reason why I want to get in that gas hole is I want to, like, that's not chrome lined. I'm going to make sure that it's getting nice and clean. Is it easier to hit from the other side? Let's find out. I mean, not really. No, not really. But I am getting it. Oh, there I got it. Perfect. So that's been nicely oiled. You may want to get into your gills here on your muzzle brake. Again, my good friend, the pipe cleaner, comes to my rescue because here's where I can kind of get it going like this. Clean it out. If you shoot a lot, you might see some residue or you might see some garbage building up here. As it stands, this looks pretty damn clean. If it's really bad, you can unscrew this guy and pull it off to get extra access. I don't think it's worth it here. Let's give that a quick rub down. All those little bits of pipe cleaner will get blown out of there as soon as you shoot this thing. All right, let me put this guy to the side. Now, when it comes to the trigger group, my philosophy is to keep it clean, not overly oiled. But again, there's a lot of steel on here. I don't want this stuff to rust. So wherever the finish is looking a little bit grody, I'm gonna give it a little bit of oil, and that's just to act as a preservative. I don't really need to oil the working surfaces in here too much. Maybe the springs if they're looking kind of nasty, but like this is a pretty good self-sustained unit here. If I want to get between these coils here, what I'll do is pull out my nylon brush and just kind of hit it in between those coils, brushing away from it so I get crap out. I'll just kind of wipe it off real quick here. On my working surfaces here, I'm going to want to oil the face of the hammer just a little bit, just so it glides over the bolt a little bit better. And I want to oil my bolt as well on that spot. There's a little bit of a latch here that the sear is going to be working on. I might oil it just a little bit, but I'm not going to go too crazy. Again, I'm cleaning surfaces here. I'm not looking to oil a ton of stuff. Oil's going to attract dirt, and I don't really want a whole ton of dirt going on in the middle of this thing. I don't really want to take it apart because, like, these old trigger groups are not meant to be taken apart. So taking them apart does take some effort. So as I'm putting the hammer back, I'm just going to be very careful I'm not on the trigger. It's going to latch on there. Put my safety on just so I don't catch a hammer in the knuckle. I don't want to do that. And I'm going to throw a little bit of oil on my pins here. Just kind of where the hammer is bearing against. Dust cover is not going to get too much crap in it. It's going to be pretty clean. It might have a little bit of like blowback from the gas, but it really shouldn't. It really should be pretty clean inside. This one's pretty clean. Good enough off the side. The bolt itself will have a little bit on the sides. And the place where you want to focus is on the firing pin and spring. You want to make sure that you've got good action there. I can feel this is super easy to move back and forth, and you can see that firing pin moving in and out. That channel is very clean. And then I'm going to want to clean out this rim that's around the bolt face, so I can just get in there. I want to get in under this extractor here. That extractor might have some metal or some other garbage that's underneath, so I'm just going to go ahead and clean under it very well. My pipe cleaner is a little bit too oily, so I'm going to go ahead and wipe it down a bit. That's looking good. I'm going to give the body of the bolt. If I got to give the SVT40 one thing for ease of use, this bolt body is super easy to clean. There's not a lot of complex curves on it or anything like that. It's a very simple mechanism. Now these lugs right at the back here are a bearing surface. They will need some oil on them. And I'm just going to spread that around with the finger of my nitrile glove here. Nitrile? I don't know. Blue gloves, rubber gloves, whatever. I'm going to get a little bit at the front here as well, because that's where it kind of locks into that bolt carrier. And then I'm going to just wipe it down a bit with this dry cloth, just so it's not sopping wet, because it does not need to be sopping wet. Next, my bolt carrier with the handle here. I'm just going to clean inside that channel. Very easy to clean there. I've got some lugs here that I can clean with my paper towel, or I could hit with a pipe cleaner pretty easily. Got those guys. Pipe. There's going to be this recoil spring in the back here. I'm going to go ahead and clean that recess out. Oh, let's see how much Cosmo is in there. Feels kind of goopy. Oh, not bad at all. Might have just been the resistance from being such like a long channel, right? All right. That's all cleaned out. Now I can take my bolt, and my bolt is going to go like that. And I'm going to go get the front part in there. And it's ready to go in there. So it's right inside there. This is upside down. It's going to be like that. But again, on these guns, I really prefer doing them upside down, because that tilting block action, when they go into battery, they go down like that, and that little bit is what's hanging on to a hardened steel piece in the receiver. So that's how they lock. So if you put them upside down, they would naturally want to be unlocked. So kind of handy, right? The cup here is where a lot of those corrosive gases are going to go into, and that's definitely where you want to clean. You can get a stainless steel cup and piston set for this gun, which really takes down the need to clean after corrosive. You're still going to want to clean after corrosive, but it reduces the number of components you have to clean, right? And just cleaning the back and front of this. And my port here. These could be quite corroded on the fronts of these. This is that gas piston. And I've seen them pretty grody on the insides. Why don't we go ahead and get that pipe cleaner all the way in there. Is it? Yeah, it's going to come through. Okay, good. Man, this passageway is pretty corroded, so it's really offering me some resistance. I'm just cleaning it out. Oh, it's rough, but I don't know if it's that bad. I'm going to clean out the mouth of it just a bit here. Then I'm going to go ahead and get a dry paper towel, clean it, and then a dry pipe cleaner. I don't want a whole bunch of oil in there. It's just going to carbonize and make a mess anyways, so let's just not and see what we did. Pull it through one way, pull it through the other way, take a look, make sure there's no pipe cleaner stuff in there. It's looking good. I can go off to the side. I think I've got all my components cleaned. Your metal fore-end cover here, this might have some gas residue on the inside. Just use again, a paper towel or a shop towel and clean the inside of that guy. And you'll, if you've fired it, you'll get a whole bunch of carbon that's come out of the port, right? Because what'll happen is this guy will be over top of this guy, and that'll all be under right here, right? And as it moves back and forth and the gases get ported out here, that's where you're going to see them, is on the inside of this part here. I just noticed a little bit of corrosion on the outside of my gas cup, so I'm just going to get that a little bit better. Again, some of this is not necessarily like maintenance in between shooting, but it's more like preservative to make sure that this thing lasts a long time, right? That's looking nice. Let's put this thing back together. I'm going to start with my gas system because it's the hardest to put together. I've got my little selector lever there, pointy end in first. And then I've got my gas piston just behind it. I'm not going to worry about what position it's at just yet until it starts getting closer. I'm going to make sure I don't cross-thread this. One, 7, no, too much. Alright, I've got mine set on 1.5, and I can see that my hash marks are matching up. So that's all good to go. Let's get this rod going here. So I've got my little doohickey with the spring there, my rod on there. I'm going to go ahead and feed it in through the hole here. And now there's my piston and cup. And oh yeah, get it down there, put this bit on here first. And then I should be able to push the rod down and into there. Sounds good? Oh yeah, sounds fine. Let's get... Next up, my wood fore-end is going to go on there, so it should just wiggle into place. This metal bit can be a little bit more finicky. I'm aiming to get it in. There's a couple of grooves on the lower metal bit that I'm aiming to get it in on. And I'm going to just wiggle it into place. I'm checking both sides. Oh, I missed one side. There we go. It is in. I can see it's latched on both sides. Sweet. Let's grab my barrel band here. I have the sling side facing the left-hand side of the rifle. That's me. And I'm pushing that detent in and pushing it down and into place. Cleaning rod. You may just need to give this guy a real quick wipe every once in a while just to make sure it's not collecting any crap on it. And then it goes in here, pushing down that button when it starts getting to the bottom, because that nub there is what's going to actually retain that thing. And it will not come out, which is a good thing. You don't want your cleaning rod coming out in battle. Next up, I'm going to get my my bolt and carrier in. I'm just going to put them in on the side to start with. They don't need to be all the way. There we go. Now what I'm going for here is full lug engagement on the left. Sorry, not full lug. Full rail engagement on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, I definitely want my bolt down in the recesses there. And then when I pull it back, there we go. Now, this part's going to be a little bit tricky to do on camera. Here's my recoil spring. Oh, this is going to be so hard. Okay. Maybe if I rest it up there, it'll be fine. Hopefully you guys can still see. Normally you wouldn't want to angle this up, but I gotta show you guys how to do this. So I'm very carefully moving that in, and there we go. I've got it on there. Next part, I'm going to pull this guy back. If it locks on you, what you want to do is put it upside down. Again, that bolt is going to want to lock if you've got it right side up. I've just got the bolt handy. You could just do this upside down. I'm really trying to show you guys this. Keep it in the rail on the left-hand side. Pull back. Now you don't need to pull it back all the way. What am I doing here? There we go. You don't need to pull it back all the way. Oh boy, I wish I could show you guys where it is. Right about there. You should be able to push it down. I just locked it in there. So that's your position where you can lock it in or out. So you push it down to lock it in, and you should go forward. You should see a rail engagement on both sides. Now to get this guy on here. And again, I'm going to face it up, not because it's a good idea, but because it's better showmanship, better so you guys can see. I'm going to grab that recoil spring plug there. I'm going to be holding it with the tip of my thumb. Okay, recoil spring's all the way to the rear. I'm going to go ahead and grab that with my thumb, push it way up. Grab my cover. It's got a latch right there on the back there. Push it up into place, and then it should just go down. You'll feel it like wants to move in there. It's locked in place. The bolt moves freely, so we're all good to go on this part. Okay, let's go ahead and clean this magazine. What we're going to do here, see this little sight hole down here? All we need to do is press in there and then start pushing our magazine floor plate to the front. I am very carefully covering the spring of this thing. If this is the first time you've done this, maybe wear some safety glasses. Out she comes, and just so that you guys see what it looks like coming out of there. There's that bit there, and then she comes right out. Unfortunately, I'm in Canada, and this 10-round magazine has been pinned, and there's a pin right there. Oh, terrible. Terrible. Keeping the criminals from using these SVT40s to go on gang rampages. Because everyone's going to use however which long this thing is to go do their drive-bys, right? A 7.62 by 54. Oh, well, that's the law here. Too bad, because this thing would be fun shooting 10 rounds out of. It's such a fun gun to shoot. I mean, 7.62 by 54 is pretty spunky, but this thing does a really great job of taming it down, even with being such a light rifle. On your springs here, you may want to clean them individually. Just make sure that the springs are nice and clean. Make sure that your metal's nice and clean. Now why don't we go ahead and reassemble this thing. I'm pretty sure that pointy end goes... Nope. I was wrong. The pointy end goes to the back. You know, because that end has a pointy end. That end has a pointy end. They go together. And in they go. This is really hard to do with gloves. I'm going to grab my floor plate. And it goes on top like that. And it clicks into place. And the magazine is working fine. I will give it a quick wipe down on the outside. I noticed that this one has some metal scrapes on the outside here. So I'm just going to make sure I've got a little bit of oil on there. Not that much. I'm just going to wipe that off with this rag here. That's just to provide a protective surface. You know, if this magazine sits in a safe for a few years, I don't want that bare steel to rust over, and with that protective oil on there, it won't. It'll be fine, right? Not as good as the Cosmoline this thing was packed in when when they brought them here, but pretty good. Next up, I'm going to grab my trigger group. It's got a couple of lugs on the front here. Those match up with a couple of hooks that are inside right here. So I'm going to go ahead and pop those in, and they should grab onto the hooks. Then they should leverage down, and I should be able to push it into place. And it's locked in place. Easy. I can now close the rear trapdoor. And I should be able to test the firing mechanism. I'm going to make sure that my chamber is empty. There's no ammunition in here. Let's see that SVT40 trigger. Pretty heavy. I'm going to check my reset. There we go. And it's working just fine. So this gun is safe. I'm going to test it with safety on. I love the safety. I love how it just blocks the back of the trigger from moving. What a simple mechanism, eh? All right. We are good to go on this part. And finally, we're ready to rock and lock the magazine in. Rock and lock mags go in nose first, and then the back locks into place. So that was the disassembly, cleaning, and then reassembly of the SVT40. Thanks for watching.